Regis Prograis didn't just predict a win for Shakur Stevenson, he tore into Teofimo Lopez's mental fortitude, branding him weak-minded and unequivocally stating that Stevenson would break him. This wasn't some casual observation. The former super lightweight kingpin detailed how Lopez struggles mentally, even in less significant bouts, making his big fight performances seem like outliers. Prograis' brutal pre-fight assessment of a comfortable win for Shakur, with Lopez trying to hit him to no avail, proved chillingly accurate as the final scores were read out, revealing a complete and utter dominance that left the boxing world buzzing with disbelief and validation.
Great matchup, tough fight. I want to see what Teofimo shows up, because sometimes it's Teofimo, sometimes it's Teofimo, the great fighter who beat Lomachenko, who beat Taylor. That's a tough Teofimo. But then we've also seen him, you know, in off nights.
Right.
And so that's kind of the only doubt, the only question that I have. You know, which Teofimo's going to show up.
What do you think he has to do to kind of deal with a guy like Shakur Stevenson? How would you approach a fighter like Shakur Stevenson if you were Teofimo Lopez with the attributes that he has?
I would think Teofimo, being that technically he's a bigger fighter, bigger size, he's been at the weight class a little more, and then just maybe build into it more. I would think he would have to use that, you know, size as an advantage. But it's hard to say, because, I mean, Shakur Stevenson fucking good at what he does.
The final scorecards confirm Prograis' stark vision, but perhaps even he didn't foresee the complete shutout. All three judges delivered an identical verdict, a near-perfect 11-19. This wasn't a split decision, nor a controversial majority. It was a unanimous, undeniable testament to Shakur Stevenson's mastery. The boxing world watched as one of its most anticipated showdowns unfolded with a level of one-sidedness that few predicted, marking a definitive shift in the super lightweight landscape. This wasn't just a win, it was a coronation etched into the record books with chilling clarity.
The highly anticipated showdown between Teofimo Lopez and Shakur Stevenson just took place at Madison Square Garden, and the boxing world is buzzing with reactions.
Ringside reactions immediately echoed the judges' severe assessment, with observers describing Stevenson as being just a step ahead with quickness and a plan. One fan, still reeling from the performance, claimed Shakur won all the rounds, maybe lost one, encapsulating the overwhelming feeling of dominance. The support for Stevenson was palpable, almost as if the crowd recognized the unfolding of something truly special, a clinic in defensive and offensive precision. It became clear very early on that this fight was never going to be the close, competitive war some had hoped for, only a display of strategic superiority. For Teofimo Lopez, the narrative was starkly different. Post-fight analysis from those close to the action painted a picture of a fighter who simply couldn't get it going despite his best efforts. His performance, described as trying to definitely going up and down, revealed a struggle to find any consistent rhythm against Stevenson's impenetrable style. It was heartbreaking to witness. His dive was emotional, a candid observation suggesting that Lopez's heart was in the right place, but his strategy and execution faltered dramatically under pressure. This wasn't the Teofimo Lopez that fans had grown to love. The stark reality of the fight led some to suggest Lopez shouldn't have been supposed to try to play with us, a blunt critique implying Teofimo misjudged Stevenson's caliber. His attempts to engage were met with frustrating deflections, highlighting a significant tactical miscalculation. It was a humbling night for Lopez, showcasing that even the most determined fighters can be rendered ineffective against a technically superior opponent. The emotional toll of the night was evident, a clear sign that this wasn't just a physical loss, but a mental and strategic one too, begging questions about his future. Stevenson, however, exuded unshakable confidence after the win, clearly unfazed by any future challengers. "I ain't scared of what it about him," he declared emphatically, shutting down speculation about his next opponent with a dismissive wave. His focus remained squarely on his own trajectory. "I'm going to perform my own." This wasn't just bravado, it was the statement of a champion who believes his path is self-directed and inevitable. The message was clear. Shakur Stevenson isn't chasing names, he's dictating terms, ready for anyone who steps up on his own terms. Veteran boxing analyst Daniel underscored Stevenson's brilliance, asserting that Shakur put it on a clinic tonight. He highlighted Stevenson's ability to put his skill set into permission all night. A subtle yet powerful distinction. The jab was leading, Daniel noted, emphasizing the precision and control Stevenson wielded from a distance. Crucially, Daniel pinpointed the difference as sheer talent, not just heart or grit. Recognizing that Stevenson operated on a different plane, it was a masterful display that transcended mere effort, cementing Stevenson's status as a formidable force. Prior to the fight, Antonio Tarver, a respected voice, outlined a specific, almost desperate pathway to victory for Lopez. He argued that Teofimo's only chance was to shed all inhibitions and really be his ultra self, embracing his gambling nature and willingness to take chances. This wasn't about a disciplined game plan, but about chaotic unpredictability, forcing Stevenson out of his comfort zone. Tarver envisioned Lopez adjusting tactics on the fly, refusing any inflexible stylistic approach, a desperate plea for an unpredictable, explosive performance that sadly never materialized. Tarver further elaborated on how Lopez's footwork could be one of a major advantage for him, theorizing it might enable him to get inside Stevenson's formidable jab. He described Lopez as a fighter who fights free, without a fixed style, doing what sometimes it takes, praising his gutsy nature and willingness to gamble. This made him a live underdog. Tarver concluded, but with a critical caveat, for Lopez to win, he has to probably stop Sheik Christie, recognizing that a decision victory was unlikely against Stevenson's defensive mastery. Mikey Garcia delivered an evaluation shrouded in uncertainty, centering on a fundamental question: which iteration of Teofimo Lopez would materialize on fight night? He pointed to Lopez's career fluctuations, ranging from the elite version who beat Lomachenko, who beat Taylor, to the less impressive off-nights Lopez. This was the crux of the pre-fight analysis, a lingering doubt about Lopez's consistency that ultimately haunted him. Garcia's query proved prescient as the subpar version of Lopez showed up, unable to match Stevenson's precision. Garcia also pondered whether Lopez's physical size might offer an edge. He noted Lopez was technically a bigger fighter with bigger size, having been at the weight class a little more and maybe built into it more. This implied Lopez possessed a natural advantage over Stevenson, who climbed up from lightweight. The theoretical advantage was Lopez's ability to use that size as an advantage, potentially deploying additional weapons. However, the fight's outcome suggested that size alone was insufficient to overcome Stevenson's superior skill and tactical brilliance. Oscar Valdez, who personally experienced Stevenson's dominance in 2022, offered invaluable, albeit painful, first-hand insight. He recalled a thorough beating that included being dropped in the 6th round, with scorecards reflecting total dominance. Valdez, once considered a credible threat, became a living testament to Stevenson's brilliance. His harrowing memory served as a grim premonition for Lopez, a stark warning of what awaited any fighter unable to match Stevenson's comprehensive skill set. The memory was fresh, and the lesson hard learned was clear for all to see. Drawing from his painful encounter, Valdez provided specific guidance for Lopez, stressing the paramount importance of mental discipline and strategic consistency. He emphasized that Stevenson's approach generates tremendous frustration for opponents, a psychological trap many had fallen into. Surrendering to this frustration had proven disastrous for multiple challengers, leading to their undoing. Valdez's warning was a direct plea for Lopez to maintain composure, to avoid the mental collapse that Stevenson so artfully induces, a critical piece of advice that ultimately went unheeded. Valdez then made a bold assertion, stating that if Lopez couldn't defeat Stevenson, he struggled to see who's going to be Shakur and Stevenson. This wasn't merely a compliment to Shakur, but an elevation of Lopez's perceived capabilities as a unique challenge. He implied that Lopez possessed a specific set of tools that, if deployed correctly, could test Stevenson like no other. The sentiment underlined the high stakes and the immense respect for both fighters, and is that Lopez represented the ultimate litmus test for Stevenson's continued reign. Regis Prograis, in his brutal honesty, expanded on Lopez's weak-minded reputation, suggesting it wasn't just a one-off issue. He observed that while Lopez excels come up with big fights, like Lomachenko and Josh Taylor, he does struggle on a whole lot of fights against less celebrated opposition. This inconsistency painted a picture of a fighter whose performance quality was alarmingly correlated to the prestige of his opponent, hinting at a deep-seated mental vulnerability that Stevenson, with his tactical acumen, was perfectly perfectly poised to exploit. Prograde dissected the fight's potential rhythm, predicting it might be a close fight for the first 2 or 3 rounds. However, he envisioned a turning point where Shakur is probably going to start stepping up and TOT is going to try to hit him, and it's not going to work. He lauded Stevenson as a really good counter, specifically noting how he sneaks those punches in. This detailed foresight highlighted Stevenson's deceptive power and precision, revealing a tactical mastery that would unravel Lopez's aggression with chilling inevitability. Teddy Atlas anchored his analysis on Lopez's mental state, observing that his career had been consistently up and down, directly tied to his psychological condition heading into fights. The veteran trainer recognized this as the primary variable, the unpredictable factor that could make or break Lopez's performance. Atlas's focus on the mental rather than purely physical aspects highlighted a crucial vulnerability in Lopez's armor, an Achilles heel that Stevenson, a master tactician, was perfectly equipped to target and dismantle, turning the mental battle into a physical rout. Atlas also acknowledged the controversial yet undeniable role of Lopez's father in his career. Listen, love him, hate him, Atlas stated. His father has been part of getting him to these world titles. This partnership, however, turbulent publicly, had undeniably guided Lopez to championship glory. The dynamic was a constant, a bedrock regardless of its public perception. Atlas understood that this unique relationship played a significant part in Lopez's psychological makeup, a factor that would heavily influence his performance in such a high-stakes encounter. Intriguingly, Atlas suggested that if Lopez were right, stable and in a good place mentally, akin to his Lomachenko fight, he could match him with athletic ability. Atlas emphasized pure ability, pure speed, quickness, quick twitch, believing Lopez possessed the raw tools to contend with Stevenson. This pre-fight assessment offered a glimmer of hope, positing that a mentally optimized Lopez could, theoretically, neutralize Stevenson's athletic advantages. The reality, however, proved that mental stability alone wasn't enough to overcome Stevenson's overwhelming skill. Josh Taylor, who lost his undisputed status to Lopez, provided a surprising revelation. He downplayed the champion's punching impact significantly. Taylor insisted Lopez didn't carry devastating knockout power. Despite his imposing physique, he recalled absorbing Lopez's biggest shots without experiencing genuine hurt, noting he had faced much heavier hitters. This first-hand account directly challenged the perception of Lopez as a power puncher, casting doubt on his ability to genuinely threaten Stevenson with knockout blows, a crucial insight that might have shaped pre-fight expectations. Taylor, rating Stevenson very good, very smart, very technical, and quite sound defensively, predicted a comfortable win for Shakur. His reasoning was stark. Lopez would eventually revert back to his old self, characterized by coming forward and jumping in stuff. This foreshadowed Lopez abandoning any strategic patience for raw aggression, a move that would play directly into Stevenson's counterpunching strengths. Taylor's assessment, based on his own experience with Lopez, painted a clear picture of Stevenson's inevitable tactical triumph. Eddie Hearn described the matchup as one where both fighters brought such elevated skills that outcome prediction became virtually impossible. Initially, he envisioned a chess match, with both men carefully calculating moves and searching for tiny openings, highlighting their precision striking and intelligent footwork. Hearn anticipated scoring would be extremely difficult for judges, with many rounds too close for definitive calls. Yet, despite this projected tactical warfare, even Hearn ultimately fancied Stevenson, calling him a generational great talent who would win things out. The overwhelming consensus, from brutal pre-fight predictions to stark post-fight analysis, painted a singular picture. Shakur Stevenson's mastery transcends mere boxing. Experts highlighted Teofimo Lopez's mental vulnerabilities, inconsistent performances, and even surprising lack of genuine knockout power, effectively dismantling the champion's aura before the bell even rang. While some hoped for a different Lopez, the version that materialized was no match for Stevenson's clinical precision and defensive genius. The fight wasn't just a win, it was a definitive statement, elevating Stevenson to an undeniable elite status and leaving profound questions about Lopez's future in the sport. The boxing world now waits to see who dares challenge this new, undisputed king.